Hey everybody, Jason Bermas here, and as always, I am joined by John Fitch for some mixed martial mindset. And John, today, other than fights, we're going to be talking a little bit about how they just redefine terms.
Yeah,
Now,
they just make up new things and then redefine terms, and yeah, it's making me think about some stuff with how there are certain words that have different meanings today, but you're not allowed to redefine them. There's that FAG word that I remember using as a kid that had nothing to do with sexuality when we used it.
not at all.
But
In
like
fact, you know
you
what?
cannot say it today.
Well, you
But you're not
can.
allowed to read it. We're not allowed to redefine words.
Hold on. Let me just say this. You can if you are a multinational corporation like Viacom, and let me explain how. And I'm not promoting censorship, but I do want to show the double standard here. They constantly, and Comedy Central, you run this on Wednesdays all day, all night long. It is literally your block, other than The Daily Show, from when The Daily Show ends till about 4 in the morning, South Park. South Park used that term mercilessly. Mercilessly. In fact, I watch a lot of these from 15, 10, 20 years ago now, and that term is constantly, and there's actually an episode where they tell everybody they don't want them to take that away from them. Right? And in that, they parody people using that term not as a derogatory term towards homosexuals, but by other people basically saying you're squirrely or you're just being a punk. You know, I don't want.
You're weak,
You're weak. Exactly. All these things.
untrustworthy. Just yeah.
By you having them used by Big Gay Al and Mr. Garrison's boyfriend, Mr. Slave. Okay, so like the most grotesque, in his own opinion, like depraved sexual character in all of it. This is the character again that's putting live animals up his butt. The Tale of Lemmy-Winks and Beyond.
Yes.
And
Oh man.
and again, they're making that point. But again, you can play those. You don't get canceled if you make billions of dollars. You understand? We can't say that. We're bigots. And I just like pointing out that double standard. The definition we're going to talk about today is recession. Now, before we even get to recession,
The other most recent thing they changed the definition to was the boop terminology.
yeah, exactly. At least on a mass scale, right?
Yes.
But we can't even talk about that. In fact, I can't show you the actual tweet. This is like the original tweet it came from, the screen grab from Thomas Massey, because representative we've been covering a lot here because his Twitter feed is fire. And John, in that tweet, he said the very same thing, that first they redefined the V word, which we can't even say on YouTube or on this channel anyway. We'll get banned. So they redefined that. And not only did they redefine this, everybody, but the White House press secretary was actually asked about it. And wait till you see her response. Okay? It's a Freudian slip.
I'm sure it was very honest.
Bro, it's the craziest thing again. It's like we live in a cartoon, John. And before we read
We
this,
live in communist Russia. This is North Korea. We live in North Korea. King Jong whatever freaking hit a hole in one in all 18 holes.
Kim Jong Biden.
Oh yes.
KJB.
But it's Joe Biden now. Like, get out of here.
But he doesn't even
I'm surprised they didn't tell us that when he fell off the bike. Oh, he was really doing a wheelie and did a stunt roll.
He was filming something for the new Jackass film. He's going to be in Jackass Forever 5. Forever, the real forever. Again, let's read this, and then we're going to go to the press secretary, who admits it's exactly what it is in a Freudian slip, then corrects herself in a word salad moment where they just make stuff up and she doesn't have to answer the question, and then on the follow-up, just complete and total denial. So this is on the White House website today, and this is why she got asked it. What is a recession? Well, some maintain, the new experts are rolling out. This is going to get fact-checked, don't worry. While some maintain that 2 consecutive quarters of a falling real GDP constitute a recession, that is neither the official definition nor the way economists evaluate the state of the business cycle. Okay, based on this data, it is unlikely the decline in GDP in the first quarter of this year, even if followed by another GDP decline in the second, indicates a recession. Now, let me say this. In many ways, they're right. Because whether you realize it or not, over the past 2 decades, they redefined what depression meant as recession. And a lot of it was just masked by the fact that we didn't see bread lines anywhere and that more people just had EBT cards. Do you see how that works? So in a sense, yeah, it's not a recession. And by the way, it's not a recession in the sense that we're coming back. They want to fucking devastate us. All right? So let's do it live, John. Let's play this, stunning, beautiful, intelligent woman of color as she is asked why they just changed the definition of recession on the White House website.
Next week's a very big week for the economy. So I read the CEA blog. Is the White House trying to change the common definition of a recession because next Thursday the GDP numbers coming out are going to show that we've been in a recession?
So let me say this, the strength of our labor market along with the other economic factors is what we generally see in a recession.
You hear what she just said there?
What you're saying is what we generally see in a recession.
So she's got her talking point.
Normally, this is totally a recession, but because we don't want to look bad.
But again, it's the Freudian slip. She can't even read the fucking talking point right. She knows we're beyond recession, and now watch her correct herself, and here comes the spewed bullshit of we're not answering the question.
Or even what is not what we generally see in a recession.
Listen, guys, take a look at this woman. She's not impressive at all. There is no reason she should be the press secretary. She's not intelligent. She's not well-spoken. She's not good off the cuff. She can't keep eye contact. She just made a Freudian slip where she admitted, of course it's a recession, and now she can barely read the talking point. Look, she has to look down for the... Say what you want about Jen Psycho Psaki. She knew very poignantly how to speak and just lie. This woman can't even do
she's
that.
a psychopath. 100% psychopath. 100%.
She had those dead eyes.
You have to. People need to learn and study body language, and body language is very telling because it's a lizard brain thing. It's not something you consciously think about. Your body reacts because things that make you uncomfortable, questions that make you uncomfortable, you cannot turn it off unless you are a psychopath, and you can train yourself to avoid that stuff. That's just, it's scary.
It is. So let's let her finish. Let's now let her tell us.
That's Ted Bundy. That's Ted Bundy. When Ted Bundy would talk and say stuff, he looked like he was telling the truth because he was a crazy person. He was a psychopath, and he didn't have those bad feelings about those things.
Exactly.
Neither did that Jen Psaki.
Nope. Not even a little
psychopath. Bit. Absolute psychopath.
And again, that woman was I'm not saying she was an intelligent woman. She knew she was lying all the time. A lot
of psychopaths are higher intelligence.
Yeah, that's very, very true. This woman,
Kaczynski.
Yeah. Well, again, Kaczynski, man, I don't know.
I don't know. Every day goes by, he might have been right.
You read his manifesto, and I certainly don't.
Modernity is evil.
But
it's
almost
back to it, man.
Well, I want to talk about those movies you were discussing in the beginning, but every time I think of Kaczynski and the timeline, I always think about Terminator 2, right? And in Terminator 2, they're trying to stop the cybernetics and trying to stop all of this evolution of Skynet. And it was because of Terminator 1 that the guy who supposedly invented this stuff now had the cybernetic hand, right? Mm-hmm. Whether that was a paradoxical loop or whatever, I think that with Kaczynski, you kind of have this paradigm where even if what he was doing at the time is righteous, technology waits for no man. You know what I'm saying? And you can't end technology and where it's headed by taking the lives of those that may develop it, right? You really have to change the cultural milieu and those in charge.
And I'm not referring to his actions as being right. I was talking about his manifesto.
Yeah, his manifestos. Again, everybody should read Bill Joy, Why the Future Doesn't Need Us, because in the introduction to that, he cites a long section from Ted Kaczynski's manifesto and ask that same question. Let's get back to Little Miss Liar Pants.
Or even a pre-recession, because we're seeing the strength of the economy and the labor market. So that's really important to note there, because those are key elements as we talk about that, as folks keep asking us about that. So Americans across the country are back to work at a historic level. 21 states, the most in history, have unemployment rates at or below 3%. That is an important number to note. 14 states are now at their lowest unemployment rates since this series began in 1976, and last month the unemployment rate was a new low in 8 states. So again, the strength of our labor market, along with the economic indicators, is not what we generally see as we talk about recession or even pre-recession.
So again, it's generally not what we see. She never says yes or no. They redefine the term. She literally gives the Freudian slip. Now here comes the follow-up.
This is a great, for people watching, this is a great cue for when somebody's lying to you, when they're directly lying to your face. And if you ask them a yes or no question, and that's all they need to say is yes or no, and they give you this big, long-winded answer, they're lying.
Yeah.
They're 100% lying and manipulating you.
Yeah. Listen.
Just go back to that. It's like, no, it's just yes or no. It's just yes or no. Just tell me yes or no. If they refuse to do that, they're a liar. They're not going to tell you the truth.
So it's funny, and children do that, by the way, as a huge tell. Yeah. Like, I'll give an example, and we're going to get to the follow-up question. But basically, my girlfriend's been up here with her daughter for almost a month. I'm having a blast. We just celebrated my birthday, all that good stuff. But my girlfriend's on the road a lot. The kid is falling behind in math. So what we did was we got her on an online program. And some of these online programs have the little bells and whistles kids want to see, colored elephants and animals and all that stuff. Yep. And what's great about it is when you get one wrong, you can hit play and the teacher goes over and writes it out, right? So I have a rule. If you get it wrong, you don't skip the lesson. You make sure to go through it, and you go through, right? So, I work. So I went downstairs after I saw her trying to skip a question. I said, hey, we're not going to skip any more questions. It's okay to get them wrong, but we're going to do this, right? So I go downstairs, and by the time I come back up, she's done. And she hadn't written out any work. You know what I mean? And that's another big thing. I said, hey, I want you to write out the work. So I looked at her. I go, how many of those questions did you skip? Oh, I didn't skip any. I go, because we were on the train. I go, well, I'm going to check on my phone right now, because they give me an email and they tell me how many questions you got wrong. And you were supposed to write out all the ones you got wrong. And I only see the one that I asked you to write out on the thing. So I'm going to give you another chance. Did you skip any questions? Yes or no? And now the sentences start coming out, right? Now, well, I don't think that I skipped any. I think that
you see, the teacher said that we did this thing, and then the thing went to there, and then actually... so yeah, that's why. My oldest, he gets through that a lot.
You know the deal. And I break it down. I go, listen, I'm going to ask you again. I asked you to do something. It's a yes or no question. I don't want to hear no. I want to hear yes or no. And I want you to be honest. I want you to look me in the eye too, because you notice this woman's not making a lot of eye contact until after she can memorize her talking point and push it through. That's another tell, just like Don was saying. And it goes on and on and on. So here's the follow-up question, and here's her talking point bullshit back.
The growth of the job for the 3-month trend, the growth of job growth in the U.S. is shrinking, is decreasing, and 7.5 million people, a growing number, are multi-jobs, meaning they have to work more than one job to afford a living. So
that's way low. 7.5 million? Come on. But times 10. Give me a break.
Is jobs really a good indicator then?
Look, here's what I would say. We've always talked about the strength of our economy. We've always talked about how historic it's been, and we've always talked about the transitioning, right? The transitioning to more stable and steady growth. And so to your point about the job growth there, this is what we have been kind of stating for the past several months. Look, the economy created 1.1 million jobs in the second quarter. And around 375 jobs per month. Those are historic numbers. Those are, if you think about the 1.1 million jobs, we are back to where we were at pre-pandemic levels. So that is what we see as strength of the economy. Again, we're going to transition into a more stable and steady growth, and so we're going to continue the work that the president has set out to do.
He doesn't do any work. He can barely speak. He's barely conscious.
He's a puppet.
I mean,
If anybody thinks him or Kamala is running anything, you're not a smart person.
do you really
You're not a
believe
smart
that?
person. They make zero decisions about anything. I don't think Joe Biden dresses himself. He doesn't get to choose what clothes he wears.
No, 100% not. I
100%.
watched that climate emergency speech, and now they're going for it. I don't know if you've seen this now. They're going to try to push through anything they can via executive order for your carbon credit system. And when they talk about a transition of the economy, they talk about gutting you. This is not a recession, folks. I'm going to say it again. They don't plan on a comeback. This is the transition via the fourth industrial revolution of your slavery, and they're doing it right in front of your face. They have an unintelligent, not well-spoken woman here projecting an agenda for a poopy pants puppet and his whoremongering, cackling sidekick. And they have nothing, like John said, they have nothing to do, zero to do with what is actually going on in this country. John wanted to make this point, and then we'll maybe get into these movies you were talking about. We talked on this program about the studies that are now out there. And again, no mainstream coverage in the United States whatsoever.
None whatsoever.
None
I
whatsoever.
talked about this too last night on my show. After I talked about the fights, I talked about a couple of these scientific discoveries. I'm not sure 100% which ones you're talking about, but the serotonin discovery, and there was another one that showed that exercise was as effective as the medicine.
It was the placebo and exercise.
Yes. And this is what was really shocking was the placebo was 31% effective.
Mm-hmm.
The exercise was like 41 to 43%, and the pills were 47%.
Exactly.
So why is anybody taking pills? If a placebo can solve the problem 31% of the time, shouldn't we be treating majoritively of these things with placebo and exercise?
Also,
because there's no negative side effects.
Why?
Is the side effects really worth that extra 7% bump? I don't think so.
Well, let's also point out that some of these studies, not just putting in a placebo, would actually take people who are not suffering from depression, and they would artificially lower their serotonin levels. And lo and behold, those people did not start suffering from depression. They also had massive examples of people that already had low serotonin levels that were not suffering depression whatsoever. But this is a pill factory, and I talked about it more extensively in the broadcast.
The funniest thing, when I was reading through this stuff, it was talking about how maybe I should just hit it, but it was talking about how the chemical imbalance theory wasn't even heavily supported. It came out in 1965, right? Psychology Today, almost as soon as it was floated, 1965, by Harvard psychiatrist Joseph Schildkraut, the serotonin hypothesis of depression, reduced and simplified by pharma marketing to the chemical imbalance theory of depression and anxiety, has been subject to critical research and found wanting. That was 1965. 1965, they found that theory wanting. It was not solid enough. But 85, it says also 85 to 90% of people believe it.
Oh, yeah.
85 to 90% of the people believe it. And it was very weak evidence to start with.
Well, the other thing is getting off them is crippling. And they talk about this long-term side
effects. And what it's doing to our water supply. One of the guys watching my show last night said that there are measurable levels of antidepressants, SSRIs, in the lakes in Minnesota.
And it's been discussed, by the way, for statins to be put in the water by government officials. These things are a reality. I would encourage everyone to read this one up and down, and it also links to the studies. Depression is not caused by low serotonin levels. Study casts doubt over widespread use of potent drugs designed to treat chemical imbalance in the brain. Experts reviewed 17 analyses of serotonin and its relationship to depression with no evidence of a link, casting doubt on their use. Now, here's the deal. I'll tell you where they were used. MK Ultra. They were used in Jonestown. They were used in universities. And guess what? Big pharma companies during the MK Ultra. They always want to tell you about LSD, everybody. Let me tell you right now, the SSRIs were a huge, huge part of it. And, love him or hate him, we're going to give Tom Cruise his due for this famous interview that he did back in the day with Matt Lauer, where he absolutely schooled Lauer. You know,
and we cannot forget who Matt Lauer is too.
You mean
Absolute
old lock on his
cretin of a human
doormat?
being.
Oh,
Absolute cretin of a human being. Horrific human being.
Here we are today, where I talk out against drugs and psychiatric abuses of electric shocking people, okay, against their will, of drugging children with them not knowing the effects of these drugs. Do you know what Adderall is? Do you know Ritalin? Do you know now that Ritalin is a street drug? Do you understand that?
The difference is this was
no,
not
Matt,
against
Matt,
her
I'm
will,
asking-
though.
Matt,
But this wasn't
I'm
against
asking you a
Brooke's will.
question. Matt, I'm asking you a question.
I understand there's
no,
abuse of all of these things.
No, you see, here's the problem. You don't know the history of psychiatry. I do. All it does is mask the problem, Matt. And if you understand the history of it, it masks the problem.
And look, again, say what you want about Tom Cruise. He's a fucking alpha. That's an alpha dog. But he might be 5'0" 100 and nothing. He is a force to be reckoned with, not only in Hollywood, but in media in general. And you notice they don't bring this up a lot because he really owns him here. He looks him dead in the eye. He's read these things. And look, I get it. He's a Scientology guy. He exploits that. That's a whole nother system of control in a cult. But he knows a cult when he sees one. And he also understands why.
I have a feeling that that's just a financial loophole for a lot
I think
of
it's a part of it.
actors and actresses. I'd heard a story about him. He had a huge like hangar and airplane and whatever shit built for like millions and millions of dollars, but it was paid for through the church. So like he didn't have to pay for it. He didn't have to get taxed on it. I was like, well, that just seems like a big tax grift. That's all it is.
It's definitely part of it. I would absolutely agree with you there. And the other thing is,
but I mean, do you blame him? Do you blame him for playing the game? Right? He like figured it out. He knows that the government's stealing from you. He knows that the government's not going to take care of him. He knows that they're terrible people. So like, why not create your own institution to back and support yourself?
well, think of it this way. All right.
I can't say he's wrong.
L. Ron Hubbard, say what you want about him, he wasn't an idiot. And the reason that most people get involved in, say, Scientology is because they are looking for self-help, self-improvement. They do use NLP techniques, neuro-linguistic programming.
Yep.
And very much, you know, in the very beginning of it, it's not based on a higher being. So it's those who feel dejected by traditional religions. You know, it's not till later on. I mean, you got to get to the highest levels that we're talking about aliens and thetans and spirituality. Mm-hmm. Most of this stuff is the same kind of stuff that you're going to see promoted by a Tony Robbins or someone of that ilk, right? And Tom Cruise has done that. There is a power to looking yourself in the face, in the mirror, and talking to yourself and holding yourself accountable for that verbalization of what is in your head, right? There's visualization, there's verbalization, and then there's realization after work. And this guy's an expert on that. So let's watch him continue to school Lauer.
That's what it does. That's all it does. You're not getting to the reason why. There is no such thing as a chemical imbalance. I'm saying that drugs aren't the answer, that these drugs are very dangerous. They're mind-altering, antipsychotic drugs. And there are ways of doing it without that so that we don't end up in a brave new world.
Yes, there are abuses. And yes, maybe they've gone too far in certain areas. Maybe there are too many kids on Ritalin. Maybe electric shock.
Too many kids on Ritalin.
I'm just saying, but aren't there...
Exactly. Yeah, you're goddamn
He's
right.
shilling. He's just shilling. And like, you see the disgust in Tom Cruise's face because he knows he's shilling.
Dude, this is where it went all wrong. All right? We made it socially acceptable 25 years ago to drug your fucking kids. All right? And now, what are we talking about? We're talking about whether or not your 8-year-old has the right to decide if they want to chemically castrate themselves. All right? So you reap what you sow.
Surgically remove body parts.
Dude, did you see that story about the guy who wants to be an alien? Wants the body modification? We'll get to that in a minute, all right? But you talk about mental illness. Hey, I'm a libertarian, you're not hurting anybody kind of guy. You do your own thing. But a lot of these people are totally and completely warped. Crazy is real, and they're taking it on to another level where they want to embrace the crazy so they can convince that you, that you can be anything you want. And you could, all these drugs are another venue for that. Okay? Believe it.
Yep.
Fairy tale land.
Examples where it works.
Matt, you don't even, you're glib. You don't even know what Ritalin is.
You're glib. You don't even know what Ritalin is. I love this. He's the dude. This is like the best Tom Cruise has ever been. I'm going to go back 10 seconds. Listen to it again. He goes, "You're glib," meaning you're just saying this. You're totally uneducated. You're just endorsing a position. You have no fucking clue what you're talking about. Perfect.
Ritalin. Maybe electric shock.
So many kids on Ritalin. Matt,
I'm just saying, but aren't there examples where it works?
Matt, you don't even, you're glib. You don't even know what Ritalin is. If you start talking about chemical imbalance, you have to evaluate and read the research papers on how they came up with these theories, Matt. Okay? That's what I've done. And you go and you say, where's the medical test? Where's the blood test that says how much Ritalin you're supposed to get?
It's very impressive to listen to you because clearly you've done the homework and you know the subject.
And you should. And you should do that also, because just knowing people who are on Ritalin isn't enough. You should be a little bit more responsible in knowing
I'm
really...
not prescribing Ritalin, Tom, and I'm not asking anyone else to do it.
Well,
I'm
you are.
simply
You're saying no.
I know some people who seem to have been helped by it.
But you're saying, but it's like, this is a very important issue.
This is couldn't agree more.
And you know what? And you're here on the Today Show,
right?
And to talk about it in a way of saying, well, isn't it okay, and being reasonable about it when you don't know, and I do. I think that you should be a little bit more responsible in knowing what it is, because you communicate to people.
Yeah, but that's not what we do in the media. You know, they do communicate. They communicate a narrative.
No, they communicate. They tell you what you're supposed to believe. That's our job, to tell you how to think about things.
That's Mika Brzezinski.
Yeah, I sent you that little. I sent you an article about the exercise being comparable.
Here, let's bring that up, and then Fitch, I want you to talk about these movies as well.
Well, the movies. These are movies that I knew about, but I never watched. One is I'm about halfway through it right now. One is The Sixth Day with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's about, like, this is 2000 it came out, and they're talking about the future, near future, probably right about now, where they're cloning people and cloning animals and all this stuff. And it's wild, man, because some of the stuff that they got right, because we didn't have cell phones at the time, but you know, they got the communication watches, all the mirrors and screens and refrigerators have like glass whatever, and they have screens. They have, you know, your digital screens to read stuff or whatever. There's the virtual girlfriend that the guy has. He sits down and puts a thing on his head, and now, you know, it's got the simp guy with the virtual girlfriend. It's disturbing, some of the things you see in that.
And in the beginning of that film,
the other movie was Gattaca.
Oh yeah, Gattaca's even more because it's based on your genetics.
Yes.
And you know, both of them are pretty tough because, you know, Gattaca, I remember less, but I remember being more impactful because, you know, the other one still had that Schwarzenegger action flavor.
Gattaca made you angry because it reminded me of all the uppity college educated people who know everything. Well, actually, because like they had superior genes, or their parents made them better because they had the right eye color, the right hair color. They didn't have heart problems, or they could predict what kind of medical issues you're going to have in the future. So like, if you were natural born, you were the invalid. That's what they called you. You're invalid. So like, you had to be genetically modified to be considered worthy to take part in society.
Yeah, it's eugenics 101, right? Yeah. And with the other one, it starts off, I believe, at a football game, right? And they had and they've got the star quarterback who gets basically a broken neck and dies right there. But they don't let you know that. They act like, the announcers are giving you that narrative. Oh, he's going to be back on the field. And all of a sudden, he's out doing commercials, and you're like, what happened? Well, they had him on Clone Tap, you know, and it's this idea that you're going to be able to actually upload your consciousness and gestate a full clone of yourself as well. The 6th Day is a really interesting one that has flown under the radar for sure.
That's a little pre-programming that you can upload your consciousness to something else and continue to live.
Absolutely. Let's talk about this article. So this is at HHS public access. You can get it on the NCBI site. And this is exercise and pharmacological man, pharmacotherapy.
Pharmacotherapy.
Yeah, pharmacotherapy in the treatment of major depressive disorder. Tell us about it, John.
It basically, it just points out that that the exercising was as effective as the drug. I'm trying to see where the drug is here.
Well, let's read it for people because it says it right here in the summary and the conclusion. The efficacy of exercise in patients seems generally comparable with patients receiving antidepressant medication, and both tend to be better than the placebo in patients with MDD. So what are they looking at here? What is MDD?
Okay, so they had MDD is the major depressive disorder.
Okay.
But they had 4 different groups. Supervised exercise was at 45%. Home-based exercise was 40%. And the medication was 47%. But I'm blown away by the placebo number, 31%. 31%. Like, you're only 16% better taking the actual hardcore drugs than you are taking a sugar pill.
Not to mention, they admit in all of it, over half of the time it doesn't work. Forget, you know what I mean? Like, none of them even hit 50%, right? None of them even hit 50%. Listen, and here's the thing. That's why when I did this, it speaks to the fact that all of us go through struggles in life. None of us feel great 100% of the time. However, I feel like when you have a goal-based lifestyle where you're driven by things that you're generally interested in or that matter or have a purpose, your mental health is usually better on top of exercise.
I don't think people really understand how hard life was for most of history. The physical demands that it took just to survive 30 or 40 years. Unbelievable. The internal rewards probably that you get because, oh, I found water. Oh, I found a potato. Oh, I found something else to eat. It was so important to save you from dying that, like, it probably lifted you up. I'm sure of it. Like, survival was a huge purpose.
Can you imagine everybody had a purpose? An apple tree, right? Like, you're on a journey and you find an apple tree.
Wow, we got food for a day. Like,
and it's sweet and delicious. Like, we're raging.
But now it's just, you just sit around and scroll and you have like empty dopamine and serotonin releases for nonsense video games. You're not actually ever building anything real or tangible. Like, building a huge game or thing in Roblox or the Minecraft, it's not the same as building like Legos with your hands. Even I would say that you're going to get more, you know, if they're talking about my kids, because my kids do those things, but like, they're going to get more internal like pride from building something real, tangible. And
I see it in real
not
time,
being
John.
done today.
You know, like yours, you know, the little girl upstairs, she's 8 years old, and she's got Minecraft on her little Switch Lite, and she loves it. But now twice since she's been here, we got her 2 different Lego sets. She's much more happy with the physical Lego sets. She likes to take them apart and put them back together. She likes to show me the different arrangements, and it's less so with that because it's physical, it's tangible, it's in your hands. But they want to push you into a metaverse, into a virtual reality, and into a almost hypnotic state of sleep while you are awake, and these drugs are a big part of that. So now I want to talk about what they intend to replace us with, because guess what DARPA just did? Oh, baby.
I saw this.
Yes.
We were talking about this not long ago.
Yeah. So we got black helicopters that can be retrofitted now with the type of Global Hawk technology where, guess what? We don't need a human to pilot them anymore at all. So they just did that publicly. They'll be able to do that with other types of aircraft.
Now, this wasn't a drone. This was an actual self-piloted machine.
Yeah. This is a
no human messing with the steering or anything.
Nothing. And it's an old school Black Hawk. They didn't have to. So again, they didn't have to redesign.
Did you see the thing for today? The in Russia, the robot, the chess robot.
No. Should I type that in?
Little kid was playing chess with a robot, and it put the piece down on his finger and crushed his finger.
Oh no, let's find it. Excellent. That's going to be great. Let's see. Chess playing robot
They
breaks
can't even get
boy's
the chess
finger.
robot not to kill people.
So let's play it.
Yeah.
If we can get.
So a chess playing robot breaking a boy's finger during a game. This happened at the Moscow Chess Open, and officials say the boy made a move during the robot's turn, and that caused the robot to grab his index finger and squeeze it. Several bystanders helped free the boy and take him away from the table. You can imagine how scary this, though.
It's almost like the plot of Elysium. I mean, I'm
It's
not
like,
sure.
it's like the robot's like, no, it's not your turn. Crush your finger. Jesus. Yeah, let's do that. Let's put that CPU unit in the helicopter. Let's let that happen.
Well, once again,
Totally safe and effective robot Apaches. Safe and effective.
they're going to retrofit
That's
everything.
what they're gonna write that on the bullets.
Well, that'll just bring us into this now, I guess. So
They're gonna write safe and effective on rainbow bullets.
I'm going to turn the music all the way down, the sound down on this, and we can just watch it. Because what you're watching is, one of the DARPA robot dogs with a rifle. Now, we've seen the guns, but you actually get to see it fire in this one.
You might want to have the sound a little bit because I feel like the gunshot is kind of a part of the terror. That's terrifying. Yeah, that's coming down the hall.
Yeah, you
Please
better,
show me your papers. Please show me your papers. Jesus Christ. Who has ever read a history book? Who has ever read a history book that's like, yeah, I can't wait for governments to have that. I can't wait for the ruling class to have that. Oh, man, it's going to be so awesome. I can't wait to get nuzzle bumped by a robot dog telling me to pick up my drool and clean shit. Like, unbelievable.
it is. And again, this technology is moving forward, whether you like it or not. What they're showing us in public and what they're manufacturing now is nowhere near as far as they actually are. And they plan on automating the vast majority of us out of work and into a UBI slave type system. So I got a few more ones I want to go over. Ghislaine Maxwell. I want to talk about the Franklin scandal a little bit because it was in the Daily Mail this weekend for some reason. And then I don't even want to say this word, even though it has to do with polio. And I know a lot of people think that we eradicated polio way back in the day, but we're going to save it. So if you want to see the rest of this broadcast, which we still got about 20 minutes or so, guys, you need to leave YouTube. You need to come over to either the Rockfin or Rumble, where we're doing it live, and we're gonna say the V word on the flip side. Fitch, before we go, tell people where they can find your stuff and what you're up to.
Go to johnfitch.net, sign up for the newsletter. I have Fitch Smash Strength up and available right now. It's a system built for martial artists to stay strong and healthy through training, but it works for regular people too. I take that concept of strength training and turn it into hygiene. Do a little bit almost every day. It goes a lot faster. It keeps you a lot healthier. We're not trying to, bulk and be huge and be bodybuilders. We just want to be strong and healthy.
Guys, buy me a coffee. Links down below. The other links to where this broadcast continues right now are also